Hello and welcome back to part 4 of our Asteroids game tutorial. In this section we will show you how to create bullets that the ship can fire. We'll be creating the sprite from scratch, and we will also get the bullet so that it moves in relation to the ship. You see, as I'm moving here, you see my bullets travel in the same direction as my ship, and they are affected by my speed. See, if I'm accelerating towards the bullets, they will come closer to me. If I back up here, I can even get the bullets to go backwards if I'm backing up. So they will get the bullets traveling relative to your ship. Alright, to set up our game so that we can fire a bullet, first we have to make a bullet. Now you can download a sprite if you'd like to, but I'm going to show you how to make your own sprite, a simple one that you can use for the bullet. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and close out this object right now just to clean up this area here, and I'm going to open up my side panel here, and I'm going to create a new sprite. So I'm going to just right click, create, and move this over a little bit. I don't need all that space there. And what I want to do is I want to give it a name here, and I'm just going to call it SPR bullet. Now you got to make sure that you're spelling it correctly here. So this is how I'm spelling it. SPR bullet. Well, actually, it's not. You have to spell it correctly, but you have to know how you spell it. This is how I'm spelling it. When I put the code in, this is the spelling I'm going to use. So if you're unsure about how this works exactly, I would just use the same name I'm doing. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the size, or actually I'm going to just go ahead and go edit image here, because we're going to draw this sprite here. So I'm going to click edit image, and this opens up to our sprite editor here. First thing I'm going to do is I want to change the size of my sprite here. Right now it's 64 by 64. As you can see, the bullet is very small. I'm going to make it pretty small. I'm just going to make it 5 by 5. So I go to image here, up here, and I click that, and I go resize all frames. Okay, and I click that, and we open up this screen, and we can right here, this is the resize canvas. This is typically the best one to use here. So I just click that, and I'm just going to change both of these to 5. And I really don't need to worry about any of this other stuff because there's nothing drawing on there yet, but sometimes you might have to tell it which way you want it to shrink and everything, but in this case you don't need to. So you see our sprite here is now 5. You notice if I've got the paint tool on, or the paintbrush tool right there, I'm not drawing here, I'm just hovering over it. You can see there's 5 pixels across, 5 pixels down. So the way I draw my bullets, and again it's up to you how you want to do it, is I use a dark color to start with, and then I use a lighter color in the middle, and it gives it kind of a glowy effect. So I'm going to pick, I'm going to make my bullets kind of a green color. And again, it's up to you. So I'm going to find a dark green here. Now my dark green choices are not too extensive here. There's the darkest one right there. So I'm going to click that guy. That's my paint color. And then I'm going to pick a round brush, which is right there. These are square brushes. These are round brushes. I'm just going to click one. Doesn't matter the size right now. And then up at the top here, this is where you control the size. So I'm going to click this up to 5. And you notice, see, there's my, don't click here yet. I want you to change one more thing before we click. But you see, this is our circle. This is supposed to be a circle. Now the reason it looks as the way it does is because there's only 5 pixels by 5 pixels. And this is the best the computer can do to make a circle that size. But if we click smooth here, right there, you'll see there is a difference here. Now you see kind of the edges are kind of blurry, and it gives you a little bit more of a rounded effect when it gets zoomed out. It tricks your eyes into thinking that this is round. So I'm going to go ahead and click right in the middle here, get that centered. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a lighter green, a bright green, as a matter of fact, right there, and I'm going to shrink this down to 3. And then see, I'm going to put it right in the middle, like this. Now it seems counterintuitive, but if your eye sees a bright color contrasted against a darker color, it makes it look like it's glowing. It seems like it should have a brighter color on the outside to make it look like it's glowing, but that's not the way it works. So if I click right in the middle here, you see now here is my what my sprite looks like right there. It shows a little preview of it right there. Also right up here it shows a preview. Now this both of these are enlarged. This is not how big they're going to be in the game. Okay, so I'm going to exit out of the bullet sprite there. Just click that, and I'm going to go back and I'm just going to double click. Actually, let me close this room too as well. We're not going to need that. So here's back to our sprite. You can see what it looks like here. Now I'm going to bring this up here, and you can see there's our tiny little sprite right there. I'm going to click this button here to center fit it so you can see the whole thing. You can see our origin's way off in the left hand corner. Now something this size really probably doesn't matter that much in this, but you will notice a difference. So go ahead and make this middle center as well. You see it puts a dead center of that sprite. Alright, so we're done here. Named it, centered it, drew it, everything's good. Okay, the next step now, we're going to create the object for the bullet. Okay, so just over here, right click on objects, go create, and I'm going to call it object bullet. Again, this is my naming convention here. You don't have to follow this, but just if when you're doing the coding, you have to make sure you spell it exactly as you do here. I'm going to set the sprite to the bullet sprite, and now we're not going to have it. We're going to come back and put some coding into this to make it so it doesn't always stay there and it doesn't just do nothing here. Alright, so let me get to the coding we need here. What we're going to do, so we're going to close the bullet object here down. We're going to, and again, we'll put something in it later, but right now we're going to get our ship to fire the bullet. So we're going to pick a key to do that. Now I'm going to use the space bar. If you want to pick a different key, that's fine. But this time, instead of doing key down, we're going to do key pressed. Key pressed, and then select space right there, space. And the reason I'm using key pressed is if you use a key down, it will be like a machine gun. It'll just shoot constantly, which is fun to look at, but makes the game a lot less challenging. So we're not going to do that. So with key press, it only happens one time every time that you've pressed the key down. So we want to, now let's zoom in over here. I'm going to collapse this down a little bit here to give me more room. I'm going to zoom in here. And again, just like before, we are going to change the description here to fire bullet. Okay, go to the next line. You see now it has changed the description right there, fire bullets. So if you need to come by later on and figure out what's happening, you can do it there. Alright, so now this is going to be a little bit long to type, so please bear with me and keep an eye down at the bottom here to show what it'll give you an indication of what the program is looking for. So I'm going to type in with, and then I'm going to open. This is a parenthesis. This is the shift 9 key will give you that symbol. That's the parenthesis. And we're going to use a function called instance create layer. And what this function does is it creates, as the name implies, an instance of an object on a particular layer. So the first thing, if you notice, once I put the parenthesis down, it's asking for now an x and y value. I want to create it where I am. So I want to use my x value, so it's a lowercase x. And then I want to use my y value. So this is going to make it so that it's created right where I am. And then now we got to tell it which layer it is on. Now, in order to put the layer name in, so first of all, I got to make sure the spelling of my layer here. So I go to my room here. Again, I open up the side here, open up the room here, and I look at my room layer, and you see it's called instances. Okay, so I've got to spell it exactly that same way, I-N-S-T-A-N-C-E-S with a capital I there. So I go back to my coding here. Let's collapse all this stuff on the side here and zoom in. I think I'm probably going to need a little bit extra room right here. So I got to put the name of the layer in, but the name of the layer has to be in quotes. Instances, like that, in quotes. Okay, and you can see down here, so he was looking for layer ID or name. And then I put another comma, and then I put the name of the object I want to create here. So the object I want to create is object bullet. And what's good about this newer version of GameMaker is it will, if there is an object and you start typing and it recognizes it, it will start giving you a choice here. So I can just click bullet there. And I want to close this parenthesis, and I want to go to the next line, and I want to indent, and I want to go to the next line and indent one more. And this is well, let me type the code and then I'll explain what's happening. So what we're going to do is set the direction of our bullet to match our ship. Again, make sure you spell this correctly. If you saw there, I almost capitalized the H there, so that would have created an error. So direction equals object ship. I'm sorry, I forgot to put something. Direction. So when you put a dot after an object's name and then a variable, this is a variable associated with that ship. Okay. Then I'm going to set my speed equals object ship dot speed semicolon, and then this is where well, let me just type it in and I'll go and explain. Motion add, remember we use this for our ship to push the ship in a particular direction. Object ship dot facing comma 5. Okay, so now what, let me close it out here. So I'm going to do my closing squiggly bracket, and again, it's good practice. In GameMaker it's not critical, but in a lot of programming languages it either does this automatically or it will it may be required in some of them. So it's a good habit to get into. And plus, if you ever need to when you are debugging something, this makes it a whole lot easier to find mistakes. Alright, so now what is happening here? This first line here, well, it's kind of jumping around here. This bit of code right here, instance create layer, object bullet here. Oh, I've got an error here. I see these red bars here showing me that I've got an error. What has happened is I'm missing a parenthesis. You notice, see, there's a parenthesis right there, and there's its match right there. Those two are matched, but I don't have a match for this guy right there. So I got to put another parenthesis right there. Okay, so what this part right here does, instance create layer, it creates a bullet on the instances layer at my location. That's what the XY stands for. Okay, now when you add width to it before that, you're saying, okay, create this thing, but now I want to tell it what to do. So now with the addition of the width, now anything that goes in here is basically you are programming that bullet. So I'm setting the direction and the speed of the bullet to match the speed and direction of the ship. It's like if you were on a moving train and you threw a tennis ball out, the speed of you on that train would affect how that ball is moving. So even if you threw it at a right angle out the side of a train, it would still move forward because you're moving forward as well. So that's what this is doing. This is setting the speed of the bullet to match the ship. Then what it does is it pushes the bullet in the direction that the ship is facing, that's what this is, with a speed of 5, or with a force of 5 pixels per step. Okay, so it's like it's on a train and then you throw it in the direction that you're facing with a speed of 5, and that gives it a certain, it combines all your angles and your directions and everything to get a new direction and speed. Okay. Alright, so that's all we need to fire the bullet. So let's play the game and make sure it is working. Okay, so I rotate the ship. You see I can fire bullets. And if I move. See my bullets. See, so you can get it to do kind of weird things here. If you're accelerating towards the bullets, you see they'll start collecting towards each other. Okay, now one thing you may not see here is what happens to bullets when they leave the screen. So right now they're just continuing on their journey, going on and on and on outside of the screen, and the computer has to keep track of all of those. So we need some method for destroying the bullets before they get out, or destroying the bullet at some time after a certain amount of time, or once they leave the room, or something like that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it so that these bullets kind of fade away, and then once they fade away, they get destroyed. So we're going to do that inside of the bullet object itself. So let's close this. I'm going to close the ship programming. I'm going to go over here to and open up the bullet object. And all we're going to do is, let me get I got to get my coding here. Okay, the only event we're going to do is we're going to do a step event. This is something that happens every step of the way, every step in the game. So I'm going to go add event, step, step. And I'm going to change my description here. Let me zoom in. Collapse this a little bit. Okay, so again, I'm going to put my description here. Fade and destroy. Okay, so this is going to cause our bullet to fade away. Now there is in addition to color, there is a level of transparency for each object or each pixel. In this case, we're going to be dealing with the object, so that's what we're doing. And the characteristic in a lot of graphic arts program that talks about the transparency of an object is called alpha, is the alpha channel. So we are going to be adjusting the alpha channel. So you go image underscore alpha, and we're going to go minus equals. Now I'm going to use a formula here that the reason I'm doing it is so that we can control how fast it fades away based on time instead of trying to figure it out in our head here. Okay, so what this code does is an image alpha of 1 is fully visible. An image alpha of 0 is fully transparent. So what we're doing is every step we're going to reduce, that's what this minus equals does, reduces the value of image alpha. So what we're going to do here is we're going to reduce it by 1 over room speed divided by 3. And the 3 here represents the number of seconds it's going to take to fade away. So the reason I did this is this formula allows us to quickly change one variable here and have very strict control over how long this thing exists here. So this variable room speed, this is how many frames per second the game is running. So even if we change the speed of our room to say 20 or something, this will still always fade away in 3 seconds. Now the way this formula works is you take 60, well, that's our room speed right now, 60 times 3 would be what, 180. So now what it does is every step it takes away 1/180th of the image alpha. So then the next time it's 2 1/80ths, 3 1/80ths, 4 1/80ths. So after 3 seconds it'll get all the way to 180 out of 180. So your image alpha will be 0. Now I know that might be a little bit hard to understand, especially if math is not your strong suit, but just realize this variable here is the number of seconds that it will take that bullet to fade away. So I'm going to go down a couple lines here, and I'm going to type in if image alpha is less than 0, then instance destroy. Okay. So again, now it asks if image alpha is less than 0, which means it's completely transparent, then destroy itself. Now again, this will only run. This will only run. That's between this bracket will only run if this is less than 0. So as long as that thing is any type of visible, it will not disappear. Now, 3 seconds may be too long to actually see this in effect, but even if you don't see it, it will be okay. So I'm going to run the game again, and you can see that bullet will now fade away slowly and disappear. Oh, yeah, you can see it. Let me back up a little bit here. See, there you go. See, it'll fade away and disappear. And the reason we want to do this instead of doing the outside room is you can see if I'm backing up and firing, my bullets stay in one place. Okay, so they would never leave the room. So that's one of the reasons I chose the path that I took there. All right, so in the next video we will do his little thrust thing, and we will see you then.